YouTube? How's it going? And welcome back to Kitchen Table Meta. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the super rares that were spoiled for the game, for set 2. I'm super excited to talk about these cards. There's a couple of them we've seen for a long time, and I just wanted to kind of wait until they were officially released before I really sat down and talked about them, because sometimes, you know, the cards can change and stuff, and I didn't want to essentially talk about them and then have something change or whatever. Okay, so first up is Miraculous Comeback Ultimate Gohan. He's a 6-cost, 2 red, 25,000 attacker that has double strike, permanent. If you have only 3 or less cards beside this card in your hand, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand or battle area by 4. And then he has, when this card KOs your opponent's battle card, inflict 2 damage to your opponent. And so the first thing to remember about this card is that he is very cheap if you can get his permanent ability off. So, you know, essentially if you only have 3 or less cards, you know, he reduces the cost by 4, which makes him a 2-drop, which is absolutely insane. I mean, that's extremely good. He also has, you know, again, that ability is like this new thing we've seen for red, where essentially the less cards you have in hand, you get some kind of benefit. Now, this is a really good ability for red, and I really like it, because right now the game is, you know, card advantage is king. It's something I always talk about. And so essentially, you know, they're trying to find ways to reward having less cards in your hand, and, you know, playing a 6-drop on turn 2 is a fantastic way to do that. Now, the downside of this card, obviously, is that, you know, if you jump through the hoops and do all the stuff to get him out for 2 mana, or 2 energy, I'm sorry, essentially what can happen is, you know, you can just get him Beerushed, you can get him killed, and then that might, you know, result in you having very few cards in hand, and, you know, maybe could snowball for you to maybe lose the game. Now, a way that we can get this guy out on turn 2 is just playing a lot of combo cards, and so that way we can essentially quickly get cards out of our hand. Now, his auto ability says, when this card KOs your opponent's battle card, inflict 2 damage to your opponent. Now, this is an extremely powerful ability. It's one that makes it really hard for your opponent to play around. They can just refuse to play battle cards out, or just refuse to attack with them. Both are acceptable ways to, you know, kind of get around this ability. However, you know, Gohan does have double strike, and so, you know, essentially not playing threats out or not attacking with threats, you know, he can still just do 2 damage off him attacking your leader as well. And so it's going to put your opponents in a kind of a tricky situation. There's also things we can use. We can use the yellow card that exhausts or puts all of our opponents' cards into rest mode in order to take advantage of this card as well. And so this, you know, or we can also use Crusher Ball on our opponent's turn, you know, when they decide not to play something in active mode or whatever, if they just choose to just play stuff out in active mode. And so there's a lot of ways we can get around our opponents choosing to play around this effect as well. And again, just a very powerful card, a very powerful effect. And again, this is kind of starting to create a burn archetype, which is really cool. Essentially what this will do is allow us to deal indirect damage, so we can deal damage without actually attacking our opponent and eventually just kill them out of the game. It's a very exciting archetype, and one that I think will be very strong moving forward. So for all those reasons, I'm going to give Gohan here 3 stars, and think he's an absolutely fantastic card, and one that you should be very excited about if you like the burn type of things. Okay, next up is Repeated Force Vegito. He's a 7-cost, 1 red, 25,000 attacker. With Union Patora, 5-cost, Son Goku, Vegeta. Place this card in active mode on top of the 2 specified cards stacked together. He has triple strike, and he also has a powerful auto ability that says, when this card attacks, this card gains plus 5,000 power for each Son Goku, Vegeta in your drop area for the duration of the turn. So this guy costs 7 energy, which is a whole bunch. Okay, that's tons of energy, right? That's very expensive. But for that energy, we get a 25,000 attacker, which is on par with Beerus. We also get a triple striker, again on par with Beerus, and his ability is maybe better than Beerus's ability in certain situations, especially when you're against a leader that can awaken himself. Essentially, this guy is going to allow us to stack up and get very big off of his auto ability, which is extremely powerful. Now, to me, this is kind of going to be the finisher that most Vegito decks are probably going to shoot for, because it's going to be really easy to stack them up. You know, Vegito's actual auto ability plus, you know, just comboing with Vegetas and Gokus are going to allow you to get a lot of those in the drop area very quickly and make this guy a very big threat. Now, the cool thing about him is, even though he's a 7-drop, he's essentially can be a 5-drop when using the Son Goku and Vegeta ability, the Union Patora ability, which is very powerful. Something else to remember is this doesn't have any cost specific thing. You don't have to, like, you know, have 5 red or, you know, a couple of different colors. You just need 5 energy, which is very easy for the Vegito deck to do. It's also very easy for the Vegito deck to just get get Son Goku and Vegeta's out. And so I think this will actually be a very good finisher for that deck, and actually, honestly, just a very strong in-game threat as well. And so again, for all those reasons, I'm going to give this card 3 stars and think he's extremely good and very exciting. A very, very powerful finisher with his ability. Next up is Grand Evil Absorption Majin Buu. Now, this is a 7 cost, 2 red, 30,000 attacker with 3 red, 3 evolve on Son Gohan Adolescence. He has dual attack, active main once per turn. Choose one Son Gohan Adolescence under this card for the duration of this turn. This card can attack battle cards in active mode and gains all of the skills of the chosen card. So some things to remember is the 6-drop we just talked about, the first card we talked about is a Son Gohan Adolescence, and so he can take advantage of that ability, and he can attack active cards, and so this will allow him to essentially attack active mode guys and then deal 2 damage if he kills them. That's very, very powerful, obviously. Something else this card could do, another Gohan target that I've seen a lot of people talk about and I think is a pretty decent target as well, is the new promo, the BCC November promo, Son Gohan, that says when he attacks, you can either draw a card or give him double strike. Again, another very powerful effect that this Majin Buu could have. This Majin Buu also has dual attack, which is extremely scary with either one of those Gohans we just talked about. Essentially what he can do is, he can attack twice, draw you 2 cards, which is super strong, or he can kill 2 of your opponent's characters and deal 4 damage to them. All those are very scary abilities to do. And again, this is just a very good finisher for, a burn deck or for a Gohan-based deck. Just it's another very powerful super rare card. I think in this set specifically, we've seen a big jump in super rares. They're beginning to, be very powerful finishers, which before they just kind of had powerful effects that kind of, maybe start up the game a little bit. For example, you have, Broly, the Rampage and Horror. I mean, he's a good finisher himself, but he doesn't have like this crazy, game-breaking ability. He just kind of essentially finishes off the Broly line. With cards like Majin Buu, though, this is for sure a finisher. If this guy comes out and is unchecked, I mean, he's gonna kill you. I mean, he's gonna win the game. I mean, the dual attack on top of any of the Gohans is super powerful. Even if you don't have a Gohan to evolve into this guy, just attacking twice for 30,000 can quickly in the game. So again, very powerful super rare card, and I'm going to give it a 3 stars. Very, very strong card, and I'm very excited to work with this card. I just think of all kinds of cool combinations. Oh, one more thing about this card. The Son Gohan Adolescence doesn't have to be red. It can be any other color, and so that's something to think about when you're thinking about the Son Gohan evolutions. Okay, next up is Jiren, Fist of Justice. 4 cost, 2 red, 20,000 attacker with double strike and a very powerful permanent ability that says this card can attack battle cards that are in active mode. I love this ability. And then we have auto once per turn. When this card attacks a battle card, switch this card to active mode, and this card gains plus 10,000 power for the duration of the battle. Now, this is something that I've kind of seen people misinterpret a little bit. Now, this is a very strong card, and I love Jiren. I think he's super cool in the show. I think this card is very powerful. And there's something that this set is trying to do is fix a bunch of different things that are kind of on the borderline of being a little broken in our game. One of them being like stall decks, decks that just play a guy, pass a turn, play a guy, pass a turn, play a guy, pass a turn, and then attack you with like 5 or 6 guys and kill you. That's a very unfun play style. And while I think it's still a good play style, and I think there should be decks that do that, I think it does need counters, and we haven't really had that currently in this set. And so a card like Jiren is designed to do that, right? He comes out early. He allows you to kill active battle cards. But what I've seen a lot of people talk about is that, hey, I'll take Jiren, I'll attack with 20,000 to one of their battle cards. I'll deal, 30,000 damage to that battle card, and then I'll attack the leader for 30,000. That's not actually how this card works. You only get the 10,000 power for the duration of the battle. And so essentially you attack the battle card, you get 30,000, and then, he readies, so you can, attack him, use him again, but he doesn't get the 30,000 on the next attack, essentially. Okay, and then the last thing I want to talk about this card is that he is very strong in a bunch of different types of decks. He's a good control card because he allows you to essentially come out early and, essentially eliminate your opponent's threats, which is very good. But he's also very good in an aggressive deck. He allows you to play him out, quickly, get rid of multiple blockers if you need to. He lets you, essentially pressure the opponent a lot while, taking away some of their threats. And he's just a very good card. Now, he also pressures big threats like Goten, Super Saiyan Gotenks. He, goes up to 30,000 when attacking him, and you can put a lot of pressure on him. And so remember, he's just a very strong card, but he's not as strong as what people are talking about with him having 30,000 on both attacks. That's not how he works. He only gets 30,000 again, guys, on the first attack. But despite that, little, I guess, mistake, of people thinking that, he's still as powerful as what most people are talking about. And for that reason and many others, I'm going to give him 3 stars. I think he's a fabulous, amazing card that you should be really excited for if you play aggressive or control decks. He's very, very powerful. Okay, next up we have Restless Spirit SSB Vegeta. This is a 4-cost, 2 blue, 20,000 attacker with double strike and an auto ability that says when you play this card, reveal 1 card from the bottom of your deck. If that card is a Trunks Future with an energy cost of 3 or less, play that card and negate its active skill for the duration of the game. If it is any other card, place it at the bottom of your deck. Now, this is a this was kind of the rare that we didn't see. Like all the other ones got kind of spoiled with people opening up packs and stuff, and this one actually took a long time to come out, and people were pretty excited about it. I think a lot of people thought this was going to be a yellow super rare, and as we get into that in a bit, I mean, yellow got kind of the shaft with the super rares. But anyway, this is, I don't think it's a very interesting card at all. It's 4 cost, 2 blue, so it's like there's a lot of 4 cost, 2 blue threats we currently have. Beerus comes to mind. He's a fantastic card, has a much more powerful auto ability, still has 20,000 power and has double strike. And so the only upside I guess this card has is that it is a Vegeta card, so it can fit into like the Vegito deck, or it gives you an upgrade, evolve target for like Princess Speed Vegeta, or even like your one-shot Vegetas. But honestly, his power, his ability just seems very clunky. In order to take advantage of this card, you're going to have to build like a Trunks Future heavy base deck, and so maybe this will work well with like the Trunks leader or something like that. But again, guys, this ability just seems very hard to get off. It seems very hard for it to actually work. There's not enough Trunks Future cards in my opinion that cost 3 or less that we'll want to put in our deck to really have a high chance of hitting one. And then if we do, its skill gets essentially negated for the duration of the game. Which is kind of weird to me. I don't know why it has that limitation onto it. And so, I mean, again, guys, I hate to I always hate calling a card bad. And I do think there are certain situations where this card could be good, but I don't think it's going to be based off its auto ability. I think it's more about just having more Vegetas in the deck. And again, guys, for that reason and a lot more, I'm going to give this card a 1 star and just feel like it's a little lackluster for a super rare. And I really would have liked to see maybe another ability, or maybe this ability happens every time he attacks, and maybe he had dual attack instead of double strike. Maybe something different like that. But in its current state, I just couldn't imagine playing this over Beerus. And even in a Vegito deck, you still have so many more Vegetas that you're running to play. You have Furious Cell Vegito on 4, you have the Furious Attacking Vegito on 4. You just have, again, so many more targets, and I just feel like this is a very lackluster card. Next up, we have Trunks, the Constant Hope. Is that right? Constant Hope? Trunks, the Constant Hope is a 6 cost, 2 blue, 25,000 attacker with Evolve 2 and 3 on a Trunks Future. Permanent if both Son Goku and Vegeta are in your battle area or drop area, this card gains triple strike. And then auto says when this card attacks or is attacked, choose up to 1 blue battle card in your drop area and combo with it. Now, this card is absolutely insane. I love this card. This is probably my favorite super rare. As soon as this got spoiled, I was just like thinking of tons of decks to put this in. Just a fantastic card. Now, it does have a little bit of a downside where you have to, make sure you have a Son Goku or Vegeta in your discard pile, which can be maybe a little difficult to do. But honestly, we have a lot of really good Gokus, like the one-drop kind Sun Saiyan Goku comes to mind. It's very easy just to play it out on turn 1 and combo with it. And then we have, again, a lot of good Vegetas as well, especially in the Trunks deck. We have a lot of Vegeta-themed, Trunks-themed Vegeta cards that can take advantage of this. So I don't think it's going to be that hard to get 2 of them into your drop area. But even if you don't, this card is still extremely powerful. It has its ability that says when this card attacks or is attacked, choose up to 1 blue battle card in your drop area and combo with it is insane. It's going to give this card a lot of reach. Essentially, you can do crazy things like you can attack with your Trunks leader, use Piccolo to combo with him. You'll draw a card off of Trunks' ability. You'll draw a card off of the Piccolo. Piccolo will go to your drop area, and then you can attack with this Trunks, and then use his ability to combo with Piccolo again and draw another card. And so you're just gonna be able to draw a lot of cards with the Piccolo card and a lot of other things. So it's just really, really awesome. I just love this card. I'm just super excited about this card, and I think that there's going to be tons of ways to turn this card into a powerful finisher and just gain card advantage from the card. And those are the two things you want out of a card, right? You either want card advantage or a way to end the game, and this card does both. And so it's just super exciting. I'm so happy to have a really powerful Trunks that we can play with. And again, for that reason, I'm going to give this an easy 3 stars and think this is going to be one of the best finishers for the Trunks deck, and possibly just one of the best finishers in the game with high combo oriented decks. Okay, next up we get Unstoppable Despair Goku Black Rose. I don't know why, but there's always there's a question mark that pops up. I think it's because the website can't recognize the funky looking E, but it just cracks me up. This looks like every time they show a Goku Black card, they're just like asking a question like, huh. Anyways, this is an 8 cost, 3 blue, 30,000 attacker with evolve 3 and 4, 3 blue, 4, Goku Black. It has triple strike, and it says when a card evolves into this card, if your leader is Goku Black, choose up to 3 of your opponent's energy and place them into the drop area. This is a absolutely dangerous auto ability. Anytime that you affect your opponent's energy or lands or any kind of their resources, it opens up an insane possibility to be abused. And so just, again, just that ability is insane. Now, again, this card is pretty susceptible to Cold Bloodlust. And I mean, again, this is a card that's, Cold Bloodlust is dangerous to all cards. It's so just because it can be affected by Cold Bloodlust doesn't mean it's a bad card. But again, this is a card that, I think that once a deck kind of comes up in the meta that abuses this card, I think that people will save their Cold Bloodlusts for this ability. I think there'll be a force to, which may sound like a downside, but I wanted to bring that up because it's actually a really big upside. Because if your opponent saves their Cold Bloodlust to stop this effect, then you can use, your powerful 5 and 4 drops to maybe get by with Cold Bloodlust. And if they use Cold Bloodlust on those, then you can literally just use this and then kill all their yellow mana, so you don't have to worry about Cold Bloodlust anymore. And so it's a very cool card, and it's a really neat way to kind of pressure Cold Bloodlust and essentially, I guess put them in a bad spot. Now, another thing about this card I kind of just touched on, but you get to choose the energy that you destroy. Which is an extremely powerful ability. You can destroy their blue to turn off Beerus's. You can destroy their yellow to turn off Cold Bloodlusts and Crusher Balls. You can just really pick apart their opponent's deck. And so this card's really going to reward players who kind of examine and know what each deck can do. And it's, like I said, just a very powerful effect. Now, it can come down on 7, which will make it come out a turn earlier, which is great. I mean, that evolve is super powerful. And then a lot of the Goku Black cards are very easy to evolve onto. So I think that we'll see this card getting evolved a lot. But even if it can evolve, even just playing this on 8 and blowing up, 3 of your opponent's energy is extremely powerful, guys. There's not really much more I can say about this. We had cards like this in Magic. We've had cards like this in other games, and almost every time they've been, borderline OP and almost always, restricted or banned in some way because they're abusable. Now, the good thing about this card is attached to a high threshold, a high cost. So I don't think it's going to be as strong as a Stone Rain or something from Magic, but I do think it's going to be very powerful and very strong, and it's going to be a threat that we're going to see a lot of decks being built around because you can accelerate into this card very quickly. You can use cards like the Frieza we're about to talk about and just get him back and play him again and just keep blowing up stuff on your opponent's field. So again, very powerful, abusable effect. So really, keep an eye on this card and expect it to be very strong. Again, I forgot, I'm going to give this 3 stars and think it's a fantastic card, a great finisher. And again, I love having these kind of effects in the game. It just makes it's a good control card that I'm very excited to play around with. Next up is Infinite Forced Fuse Zamasu, which is a 10 cost, how many is it? 4 blue, 30,000 attacker with Union Patora, 3 blue, 4 colorless. It says Goku Black Zamasu. You essentially, if you have 2 of those in, it just works just like the Vegito cards. It has Indestructible, and it says auto, when this card attacks, choose up to 1 card each from your opponent's battle area, battle cards only, which is important, it won't hit field cards, energy, life in hand, and then place them at the bottom of your opponent's deck in any order. This is an insane finisher. This ability is incredibly strong. It has Indestructible, which is going to make it last. When you play this card out, essentially it's going to be there, it's going to stay, and so and this effect is going to quickly take over the game. This is one of those cards that I think is the picturesque control finisher. It's a card that comes out late. It's a 10 cost card, 8 if you can Union Patora it, which I think that those decks will be able to, because most of the Zamasu cards are indestructible in themselves, so it's going to be hard to get them off the field. And then again, I think control decks are going to be able to build their decks where they can protect their Goku Blacks and then essentially just evolve into this card. Anyway, I'm sorry, kind of got a little bit off topic there. Anyway, so like this card again just has it puts a clock on your opponent. You play this out, you know, they're probably dead. You know, like they might not die that turn, but they're almost assuredly going to die in like 2 turns or 3 turns, because 30,000 attacker is nothing to joke at. I mean, it's probably going to get through. What I can see a lot of control players doing with this card is attacking their opponent's cards with this card and then using the auto ability just to do damage passively. Again, the card from their life doesn't go into their hand. It's like essentially a pseudo critical ability, and so it's not giving your opponent card advantage or anything like that. In fact, it's actually taking card advantage away because it takes a card from their hand as well. Again, this card's just insane, very good finisher. It's a little tricky to play out because it does have a 10 cost. It does require 4 blue, which is a little restrictive, but again, since for a 10 cost card, 4 blue isn't unreasonable, right? That's probably possible. If you get up to 10 mana, it's probably not too hard to imagine that 4 of them can be blue. And so again, just a very powerful card. Not really much more to say about this other than it is a god, strong card, going to end the game. You play this out, definitely going to end the game. So for all these reasons, I'm going to give this a 3-star. I think it's a fantastic finisher and something that I think control decks will be abusing for this set. Next up is Returning Evil Golden Frieza. Now this is a 5 cost, 2 blue, 25,000 attacker that has double strike. And auto, when you play this card, choose up to 1 of your battle cards and return it to your hand. Then choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and place at the bottom of their deck. Again, just a very, very strong ability. I'm actually extremely excited about this card. This is something that me and my team have talked a lot about. This is a card that I've seen a lot of people not talk too much about, which confuses me. I think this is a very strong ability. Now, this is a Frieza clan card, so it isn't a Frieza army card, so it's not going to work in like the Golden Frieza decks. They can't like sack this card and draw and do all the shenanigans with it. That's one downside. However, it is a Frieza clan card, so it will work off of the King Cold card we saw that reduces the cost of Frieza's, and I think this makes this, I think, a 3 cost after that effect goes off. So it's very strong, very important to remember. Something to remember though is that he does cost 4 yellow, so it's not very likely that we're going to be able to play him on 4 and then play this out the next turn or anything like that. But it's just a cool interaction that I think is neat and I wanted to bring up. Now, this is a 25,000 double strike attacker for 5, which is on the curve, right? That's what we want. That's what Gotenks does. That's what a lot of the big 5 drops do. They have either a very powerful ability or 25,000 power or double strike, or in the case of Gotenks, both. And this ability is, I think, something that people are not really realizing how good it is. So again, I'm going to go over it again just really slowly, but it says when you play this card, choose 1 of your battle cards and return it to your hand. Now, this is very, very strong. Because you can choose, in this game, everything has haste. And because of that, this effect isn't as big of a downside as what I think it might be in other games. And so, if you choose, like, let's say your Gotenks. Let's say you attack with your Gotenks, play this out, return your Gotenks to your hand. That might sound like a bad thing in other games, but again, like, you can just play your Gotenks out the next turn and then ready your mana, get his whole effect again, and still attack with him. So you're not losing an attack. In fact, it actually protects your Gotenks. So if you're worried about like a Beerus coming down or something, you can play this out, essentially KO one of their guys, because you don't really KO, you put it at the bottom of their deck, but it's essentially the same thing. So you can essentially get rid of one of their guys, protect one of your guys, and still have a powerful effect, a powerful attacker after that. It can also, happen on itself, so you can play this out, return itself, and just remove one of their guys each turn, which is extremely powerful as well. There's just a lot of really cool things you can do with this card, and honestly, it just makes me really excited. I love cards like this that kind of doesn't necessarily open up new archetypes, but definitely opens up different ways to play the game, and I'm just very excited about this card. For that reason, and many other, I'm going to give this a 3-star and think this is a fantastic card and one that I cannot wait to start brewing with and taking advantage of this really powerful auto effect. Next up is Piercing Super Saiyan 2 Sun Gohan. This is a 7 cost, 2 green, 25,000 attacker that has Evolve, 2 green, 4 Sun Gohan Childhood, double strike, and it has a powerful auto ability that says when you play this card and your opponent combos during the duration of that turn, choose all of your opponent's battle cards in the battle area and combo area with energy cost 3 or less and place them in the drop area. Now, this is very, very powerful effect. And honestly, this card isn't that expensive for how powerful this effect is. If you can get this out on 6, this is a very strong ability that can quickly end the game. And I feel like it's an effect we haven't seen yet before too, so I think it's going to be a little hard to evaluate as far as when, the first time you read this card. But make no mistake, this effect is extremely powerful. Essentially what happens is when you play this card in your opponent's combos, so if they you play this card out, you're like, oh, I'll attack you for 25,000 double strike. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll use my 0-cost combo card. It's like, oh, cool. Well, that gets removed. All these things get removed. It also removes all of the cards, all of your opponent's battle cards as well in the battle area. So it's just a really, it's a very strong, effective finisher for green, and it's just one of those cards I'm super excited to play with, and just cannot wait to see how people build with this card. Now its evolve is again 4/2 green, so you can get this out on turn 6, which is probably where this is going to be the most powerful. I think at 7 we probably have a couple more a little bit better finishers for most decks at 7, but again I think if you play this out on 6, very strong card, very powerful ability. Next up, we have perfect. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to give that that card. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. 3 stars. Powerful card. I'm so sorry. I forgot that. My bad. Next up, we have perfect for Cell. 7 cost, 2 green, 30,000 attacker with evolve, 2 green, 4 on a Cell. With double strike, when you play this card, if your leader card is an android, your opponent must choose cards in their hand until there are only 3 remaining, and place the chosen cards in the drop area. This is a very powerful card, and one of the things that you're going to see a lot of people talk about is being able to use the Cell mechanic to essentially get this out extremely early and then discard your opponent's hand down to 3. This is something I've seen a lot of people talk about, and I think it is a powerful play, but it's what I like to call magical Christmas land. It's not going to happen often, and if it does happen, it's going to be really cool, and your opponent's definitely going to feel it, but you're also going to have to go through tons of cards to do it. You're going to have to essentially have the God Hand to pull this off and to get this out. I think it was on turn 3 is what people were talking about. And to do that, you're kind of all in on that effect by that point. So you do all this stuff, and your opponent just kills this card, and you're like, well, I mean, we're both down to 3 cards, but oh well. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem like a very powerful. It seems powerful, but doesn't seem like where I want to be when I build a deck. I don't want to rely on some low chance hand size to get this out. I actually just want a card that comes in and does something powerful consistently. I want consistent decks when I play at a competitive level. And so this card, while very good, I'm going to talk about why it's still a very extremely good card. Please don't play this card with the mindset that you're going to get him out on turn 3 and take a bunch of cards out of your opponent's hand. That's just absolutely not how you should evaluate this card. Now, let's talk a little bit about its auto ability, because that's what's exciting. So the fact that he can take 3 cards out of your opponent's hand when you play them is very strong. I guess he can actually take away more than 3. Your opponent essentially discards down to 3. And so this card costs 7, which is very powerful, but this is a great card for hand destruction decks. Again, you do have to have an android leader, so it's going to require hand destruction decks to kind of evolve more to an android-based leader, which is possible. There's a couple ideas that I have of maybe doing something like that, because Cell is a very powerful leader. But mostly what we're going to see happen with this card is it's just a strong ability where you essentially play this card out, your opponent has to go down to 3 cards, and then you use this card and your other threats on field to pressure your opponent, knowing they only have 3 cards in hand. That's essentially the most powerful way to use this card, and honestly the way that most people are going to use this card, and why it's going to be so powerful. And so remember that, guys. There are a lot of fun things you can do with this card, but don't let that distract you. The ability is powerful, and that's all it really needs, is a powerful ability. So anyway, guys, we're going to give this card, again, 3 stars. Think he's extremely powerful. Think we're going to see this in Cell decks. We're going to see this in just Android-based decks. Think it's a great finisher for those decks, especially if they want to go late game. And again, I just think it's a powerful, powerful card with a very strong ability that's going to allow it to close the game in a unique way. Next up, we have Hidden Awakening Kale. This is a 4-cost, 2 green, 20,000 attacker with critical, which is extremely insane. It also has 2 powerful auto abilities. It says, when you play this card, choose one of your battle cards and KO it. Then choose any number of your opponent's battle cards, of which the total cost adds up to 5 or less, and KO them. And then, when this card attacks, if you have 5 or less cards in your hand, draw 1 card. And so this is extremely powerful card. This is good in almost any green deck that runs it. In my opinion, this is essentially it's good that she looks like Broly, because this is, I think, going to take over the promo Broly slot in the Broly deck. This is just a fantastic, I'm sorry, in the hand destruction deck. This is just a fantastic threat that lets you essentially play this out, deal with a lot of your opponent's threats, which that deck really struggles with. It struggles with cards on the battlefield, and then it has critical, so it kind of adds that hand destruction type of ability, right? It allows you to essentially attack and pressure your opponent while essentially discarding cards with the critical effect. And then it also, she has the the ability to replace herself every time, when she attacks the first time, and then if she stays alive, continue to replace herself. Just a very strong ability. This also, I've heard a lot of people talk about, the downside of this being KOing your own battle card, which is true, but the Broly decks can take advantage of this. The Broly leader decks can take advantage of this by just using their little bio soldier card and actually sacrificing that, and then using that card's ability to just get it back. And so again, this is just a fantastic card. It works really well with the Broly deck, which I think is struggling a little bit anyway. So it's really cool that they gave Broly a tool. It also is going to another very powerful tool for the hand destruction decks. And I'm just very excited about this card. I think it's extremely powerful, extremely good, and for that reason, I'm going to give it again 3 stars and just love it. Just a fantastic super rare card. Next up, we have the Infinite Force Meta Cooler Core. This is a 7 cost, 2 yellow, 25,000 attacker with active battle. Place 1 Meta Cooler from your battle area and the drop area. This card gains 5,000 power for the duration of the turn. Auto, when you play this card or when it attacks, if Big Getty Star is under this card, choose up to 2 Meta Cooler from your drop area and play them. Again, fantastic super rare card. I don't want to spend too much time on this card because this is essentially the finisher that we talked about when we reviewed the Big Getty Star, about how it needs something to kind of for the cores to kind of go into, because like as it stands now, the first core that we've seen just goes into itself and does nothing. So this is the finisher that we knew was coming, and it is one heck of a finisher. It's an awesome card, but it is going to be restricted to the Meta Cooler decks. I couldn't imagine anyone else really playing this card. While it does have a powerful effect, it is very restrictive, which is fine. I think it's okay for super rares to be required to be put in a certain deck. I think that's perfectly fine. Actually, one of the things that is super awesome about this game, it's such a good way to balance the game where you can make a powerful effect but then restrict it to a leader, and so then it's not as overpowered because it's it's constrained. It can't be abused essentially. And so again, I think this is a great card. Again, I don't want to go too much into it because it's very cut and dry. It's a fantastic finisher for the Meta Cooler decks. Its abilities are very powerful. It allows you to essentially finish the game with Meta Coolers. It's just a great card. But I am going to give it 2 stars because I do think it is limited to the Meta Cooler decks, but still a powerful deck for those for a powerful card for those decks. Next up is Cooler Blood of the Tyrant Clan. Now this is the last card we're going to talk about, and it's a 7 cost, 3 yellow, 30,000 energy attacker with double strike, and it says active main once per turn. Remove 1 of your battle cards from the game. Choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards and switch them to rest mode. Choose 1 Cooler's Armored Squadron or Frieza Clan other than Cooler from your drop area and play it. Again, guys, this is just a finisher for the Meta Cooler. I'm sorry, not the Meta Cooler, the actual Cooler leader. It really plays around with what he wants to do with his squadron. It's just again, a really fantastic card, but it is limited by the ability of only really being strong in those decks. It's actually one of those cards too that I think is going to probably not see that much play even in those decks, because I think it's going to be hard to get this card out. Now, one of the ways that can make this card strong and playable is there is a Cooler card that gives all of your Cooler cards evolve 3 yellow, and so if you can get this guy out that way, I think it's going to be very strong and powerful. But again, it just seems a little unreasonable, and again, while its effect is powerful, I don't necessarily think the Cooler leader is that great, and I don't think this card is while I think this card is great for that leader, I think it's going to really struggle by being attached to kind of a lackluster leader. And so again, I don't think I want to see this card seeing too much play except in those leaders. I don't expect that leader seeing much play either. So for that reason, I'm going to give this card a 1 star and just really feel like they kind of missed the mark on this. I think that what they really should have done is added in a super rare for chilled and gave us a way to take advantage of the tokens. That's something that's really disappointed me with these spoilers, is that we didn't see that super rare chilled piece that I expected, and it just really bums me out. I think that the yellow got the shaft in the spoilers. They didn't. I mean, in these super rares, they only got 2 of them. Both of them are really limited to leaders, which is kind of like, I guess, the yellow theme, right? Like they're powerful, but they have to be used essentially together. Like you really can't, like for Cold Ballast is a perfect example of that. And like I don't know, I'm just really kind of upset about these yellow super rares. I really wish we would have seen at least the chilled one. So anyway, guys, that's it for the super rare spoilers. They are fantastic cards. Most of them are unbelievable and we'll see tons of play. The ones that aren't are just restrictive, but still very good. And I really am excited about these super rare. I really feel like they raised the bar on the super rares for this set, and I'm just super excited to get my hands on them and start building decks. Now, thank you guys again for watching. I'm so sorry that these spoiler videos were delayed so much. Again, I just got kind of overwhelmed this weekend, and I promise I'll do better in the future. But guys, again, thank you so much for your support. You all rock, and I will see you tomorrow.